it's Lilia here with the Help Yourself podcast, and with me all the way from sunny Malta is my very good friend, Duncan F, who is also, well, one of the Malta's most famous DJs, an events organizer. We'll talk about that, all the different events that you, events designer, sorry, but also the father of 5-year-old twins. So Duncan, welcome.
Hi Lilia, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on, because I mean, just having twins alone is quite busy. Never mind all the other things you're doing. And I know that Jenny has got amazing things going on. I'm seeing your masks and her scarves. So your household's pretty creative, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, to start off with, really how I got to know you was through Bubble. Well, it was actually probably before that, maybe Earth Garden, but festivals and music. I know that you don't DJ as much now because you don't want to be out at nights, but you're still, you know, your gigs at Bubble and these amazing festivals are always like rammed because you're just so creative about how you do it. So can we just talk about the DJing and the music and the festival thing first? Because that's something that's quite close to my heart. I think up until this COVID nonsense, it's a really healthy way for us to socialise and enjoy two things that we love to do, dancing and music.
Yeah, well, I was a DJ for many years. Like, I started DJing when I was 12 years old, so I was DJing for a good 24 years. I'm 39 now. A couple of years before I had my kids, about 7 years ago now, because they're 5, I started to get a bit tired of the whole club scene. More than the club scene, the actual being out at night so late, you know, I started to enjoy the day a little more. So I kind of moved away from my DJing and just moved into the festival act. I still really enjoyed to DJ, but I just couldn't take the night thing any longer, you know. Grew up in so many ways. It's been beautiful. I guess I'm kind of like a veteran DJ. I say that because it can be quite a harsh environment, you know, being out every night sometimes for very long periods of time. But I survived it nicely. It served me well while it lasted. I really, really enjoyed it. But now it's just a new phase of my life, really. So now I'm organizing.
So, because you lived in Amsterdam, did you not? I mean, you were right in the heart craziness. Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's how we learn, isn't it? From going and working with and being in amongst the world elites.
Exactly. I had gone to London when I was 20, and I studied audio engineering there. Because I wanted to just really be good at what I did, I took it very seriously. I was extremely passionate about my DJing and music. I still am. You know, I'm still very much into it, and I teach people, I have students, and I'm still very active as a DJ, just not out at night, you know. Yeah. So yes, I'd gone to London when I was 20, studied audio engineering, and then 10 years after that, also ventured to learn more in Amsterdam with some producers who teach, you know, other producers in Amsterdam, the very, very good producers themselves. And it was an amazing atmosphere to be in, just learning with people that actually teach skilled producers. So that was great. I guess that was my final really good year when I was really enjoying it. After that, I decided to choose life a little bit, you know, because I was in Amsterdam, I was there, I was doing it. I was playing in clubs with my colleague, Alex Thompson. You know, I had an amazing time out there, but I had already fallen in love with Jenny, my partner, the partner I'm with now, you know, so I just was faced with like a choice, I guess.
Yes.
I kept DJing and stayed with her. She was, you know, always cool with that, and she's known me since I was very young, but I guess I just wanted to experience a different angle of life rather than, you know, mostly the night scene and night times and sleeping so late and waking up so late all the time, you know.
Not with the circadian rhythm.
Exactly.
So listen, let me talk a little bit about Bubble, because when I moved to Malta at first, which was about 10 years ago, or maybe more than that, I'm not really sure, but I was amazed at how many young people there volunteer, and also how these festivals, you turn up, 1 minute it's just a kind of, you know, desert field, and the next, within a few days, you've got this magical, phenomenal, you know, like theatre, almost outdoor theatre. So, and your acts have always been incredible. I think one of the first ones that, you know, when you did the big spaceship and you were the alien, and so where do you get you know, I mean, it's a lot of work. Where do you get these ideas and that inspiration from?
I've always enjoyed like my more kind of theatrical shows rather than just DJ sets.
Uh-huh.
To be honest, I don't know. I just as soon as I just sit with it and don't think about it, and you know, I zone into it more. Like it just comes up from nowhere. It's kind of
Yeah.
like it's kind of universal inspiration, I guess. I've never been much one to maybe look outward to get an idea or something like this. It's usually just the flow of my
Nice.
life at that time, and then I think.
Uh-huh.
Um, so yes, I've had many shows. You know, like over 10 years, different ones every year. Sometimes 3 or 4 different ones each year. I've kept those going, so I've turned some of my previous best carnival shows, let's say, and turned those into festival acts now.
Uh-huh.
So there's my two favorite ones are called Maya, and the other one's called Anunnaki. So one's the alien show you mentioned.
Yes, yes, that's that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm now building a portable spaceship so I can actually travel to overseas to other festivals with my spaceship in a suitcase, basically.
I was about to be impressed. I was like, if you've got a spaceship and you've not been telling me about it, after me telling you I might not get my Ryanair flight, you could pop over and pick me up. That would
Yeah,
be.
for sure.
So let's talk about Bubble because, as I say, the whole volunteering thing is certainly in the circle that we hang out in. So many people give their time, and I know that you're a philanthropist as well as an entrepreneur in terms of the charities and the people that you've helped with the money you've raised, and it's a phenomenal amount of work because I've been there beside you, and last year I actually just rocked up and I just enjoyed it, which was great. But I've been there usually with the building of it and the heat and all the complications that go with it. So when did you tell us about Bubble? When did that brainchild appear?
Okay, so at the time I used to organize approximately 25 events a year,
Mm-hmm.
most of which were parties. Like I'd have beach parties, all sorts, Christmas, New Year's Eve ones,
Yeah.
different things happening mostly in the Maltese Islands, but some in Ibiza, some in England, some in Spain, all over, but mostly in Malta. Um, and back then I used to out of the money I made, I used to give a small percentage to an organization by Don George, who was this priest in Africa who was helping some kids there. I used to secretly, well, I used to keep it a secret. I used to give money to him. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to make a show of it. That
Uh-huh.
was my idea of being humble at the time. You see, I didn't want to make it like I was some
Mm-hmm.
guy giving away money. It wasn't huge amounts of money, but it was 10% of what I was making. Uh, and I had a realization whilst traveling one time. I said, maybe I should tell people what I'm doing. And that way maybe other people might want to do the same,
Mm-hmm.
so it switched from me feeling like I should be humble about this to let's tell everyone, be humble anyway about it, but
Mm-hmm.
just spread the word, encourage my friends to do the same, etc. So from there the elements of awareness started to grow inside me, you see. So I was traveling, I was experiencing more, so to speak, presence with myself and the environment. I was in places like Thailand, India, um, all over Europe as well, and I was playing in some countries, and I just felt that it's good to share something like that. So from this sharing and awareness point, I started to notice that I was bursting my bubble, you see. I was in a bubble, which was a good bubble, but I was becoming more aware of what's outside that bubble. And
Uh-huh.
so from this, I created this event called The Bubble. It was just a charity event for 200 people um, at a club called Jampula, Malta on the first year.
Uh-huh.
And we raised money for the same cause, but it was public. Everyone knew what we were doing. It was fun, and it was a very, very good party. We left it at that.
Mm-hmm.
The next year, the idea started to develop, and I said, let's turn this into a small festival. I moved to another location called Busquets Roadhouse. It was still over one day, but with more of a festival kind of feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year and the next, it just kept growing, basically from one day to 2, 3 days. Finally found the new location where it is now. Um, and added the camping aspect and the full shebang. So, here it is now, and there's thousands of people showing up at this festival. And we're raising good money for good causes, which has always been the idea. But again, I'm at a crossroad now, 10 years later. It's grown a bit too much. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's having, let's say, it's weighing down on my life a little bit. I do have a lot of help, but we need to restructure things now a little more. We need more help. We're trying to get funding to possibly fund like 2 or 3 full-timers on the NGO.
Yes.
This way,
Yeah, it needs that. I'll just
yeah,
tell people, for people that are listening that have never been, it is
yeah,
up in between Golden Bay and Rantofia. I always say that wrong, but on that cliff along the top there, you see the sunset. I mean, it's just a spectacular setting in nature. And it was 7 days last year, and
yeah.
there's workshops all day, every day, from like 7, 8 in the morning till sometimes even stuff going on through the night. All the different stages, the jamming stage. I mean, and I went there and glamped for €100. I still, it's the cheapest holiday I've ever had in my life, and one of the most life-changing ones. I mean, I said this to you afterwards. I don't know how your head doesn't explode, because obviously
Yeah.
there was so many people from all over the world. The value is phenomenal, but also running a volunteer program as well brings all its own challenges. But it was just spectacular. So you're taking a year off this year, and COVID allowing, I'm assuming. What's happening over there anyway? Tell me about the lockdown.
I will. So just a bit about the bubble thing first. The plan was to take a break anyway this year.
Uh-huh.
In fact, a lot of people are joking about it, saying it's like the new you guys.
Did you know?
Maybe on some level, I don't know. But it's worked out so well, because to have put in all that work, so much work, like massive amounts of work, people cannot even imagine unless they've done it before. Organizing a festival is a big task. It's almost like giving birth to, like some supernova every year,
Yes.
So yeah, I'm so glad that, and I'm thankful that we decided to take this break, which was needed anyway. I needed the break, and then when I was a bit shy of the team to actually tell them, guys, let's take a break this year. When I said it, they were all like, yes, let's take a break,
Uh-huh.
So it felt right, and we took this break, and the land needs the break, we needed the break, everything. And then of course this whole COVID kicked in, and I would have been gutted if I put all that effort in and then had to
Yes.
cancel.
Absolutely.
Would have been devastating, So it's good, and we're planning for it next year. But again, we're restructuring, so it is not 100% on next year.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure we'll manage. We're confident we'll manage, but we need a stronger team. We're working on funding. With this COVID thing, it's a bit harder because all the funds are on lockdown at the moment too. But the right people are involved, and they're helping us, and I'm confident that we will work it out. I'm just putting it out there, so I'm trying to be as clear as possible about it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And what's happening? So let's talk about lockdown, because you guys really managed the COVID thing very well. Like when I saw it kicking off in Italy, I was concerned, because I thought, Malta's there's so many Italians in Malta, so close, so many people coming and going. Obviously, the fourth most densely populated place in the world. So it could have been, disastrous, but it wasn't.
I think what's happened in Italy kind of helped a lot, because what's happened to some degree is, everybody get really afraid because Italy's so close, like you're saying, and there's this huge breakout of COVID there, and so many people were dying, that the government reacted very fast, closed the airports, and put everyone on lockdown quite quickly here. I know there's a lot of, side stories about this, and none of us really know the truth about anything at this point,
Absolutely.
My opinion of this is that's the beauty of it, okay? That is my take on it. I think for reasons we're not sure of, we can all theorize, we can all watch videos, and we can all speak to this and that and debate it, and it's fun, by all means, let's do it, But I think the beauty of all this, the more I think about it, or the more I feel about it, is that we don't know, And in that, we're pushed to a place where, hey, stop thinking for a second, stop trying to think, because you know nothing, I really feel this, and for me, that's been my experience. I'm sure it's been different for others, so my condolences go out to everybody that's lost people, or, have had a hard time through this. But for me, most of the time, it's been a beautiful experience. Of course, it's been hard at times with 5-year-old boys, and not being able to see members of their family, us being with them all the time, no one to relieve us. They're 5 years old, they're boys, they're feistier than most boys, from what I can tell you. So
Yeah, I met them actually last
yeah,
summer and chased them round a bus stop for about 20 minutes.
yeah, they're full of energy. So there were days where we're like literally pulling our hair out and like considering, you know, all sorts. But overall, it's been beautiful. It's of course, I've been faced with my kids more. I was too busy before. For me, my experience was I was too busy. I was tired, you know.
Yes.
I'd taken on too much. I was a father. I was running this events company. I was doing the bubble. I was helping my parents with this and my family and all sorts. And I honestly was tired, you know. So my experience was a good one in the sense that all of a sudden everything came to standstill. I could breathe. I could look at my kids and actually listen to what they were saying. And I do believe, I have spoken to a lot of people, I do believe it's had this effect on many people. It's had this
Oh,
effect on the planet.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, it's had this effect on so many people. The planet is breathing. Most people have been forced to stop what they're doing and actually reconsider the way we're treating each other and the planet, you know, which is already a plus. Of course, it has its negative side, but for me, I have a choice, and the choice has always been there. Do I make a positive of something? Do I make a negative? If I'm going to start going down the route of, you know, one world domination, all this stuff, we're being taken over, we're being put on house arrest, all this stuff, is it true? Very probably, very possibly. But we only have one choice at the end of the day. We don't have a choice to change that. If there was, of course, we'd take that choice. But from where I'm standing, I don't have a choice to make that difference. The only difference I have is to change my internal process, to change my well-being, to move to that fuzzy place inside me. You know, I think to do anything else with it is a mistake. Honestly, I really do, because I'm seeing people that are a bit depressed, possibly panicking a little. I understand them completely. There are days when I feel like that. You know, there are days when I'm not as grounded as I am now. You know, I've delayed this Skype chat with you a couple of times. You know, and there have been days where I was off. You know, and of course everyone has been, but it's important for us to ground ourselves and just say, you know, I'm in control of me. You know, and the negativity around us has always been there, and possibly always will be, unless we come back to ourselves, you know, and look within us. I feel from there we can find that happy space, and regardless what's going on around us, it would have been the biggest lesson of our lives. Yes, because if we all learn how to achieve that happy space inside, then we're always going to be unaffected.
Yeah, absolutely. It's how we choose, whether we choose to respond or react. And I think everyone, you know, like you, a lot of people have been given this huge gift of time and really enjoying part of that. And particularly if you're getting paid, you know, you can really just expand and go, wow, you know. But obviously it's been challenging for some people, and I've been up and down all and round about, as my control issues became evident. And my not being able to get a flight to Malta became evident. So I've had to do a huge amount of letting go on my judgment of others' fear and my judgment of the lockdown and the resistance and the wanting to scream and like exactly like you said, is there anything I can do? No. So you don't want to punish your own body for something that you can't do anything about, quite literally. You know?
Exactly.
So so what would you? So there's lots and lots of theories, you know, you know, the conspiracy theories. Well, they call them conspiracy theories, and there's a lot of evidence coming out, as you say. You can read everything, and you still really do not know what's happening. But I think, you know, we're big nature lovers. What the rest and the break the planet's been given was so needed. I mean, the bird song here, the skies are clearer. Has it been like that for you guys?
Yes, my theory about this has been from day one is I take the permaculture point of view, you know,
Yes.
and in permaculture I started permaculture with Pepe, of course, in Malta. He's great, you know. I mean, he's someone that's, you know, I always listen to. I'm all ears when he talks, because
Yeah,
he's
I'm going to
really in his
speak to
part.
him. I'm going to
You are,
speak to
yeah?
him. Yeah, I love that man.
Yeah, he's great, yeah. So one thing I learned from him in a course of permaculture and on his land, beautiful space, you know, I recommend everyone to come over and give that a go, actually.
Yeah.
Is that every what we think is a disaster, earthquakes, volcanoes erupting, are usually these natural, we call disasters, are actually nature healing itself. You know, it's been proven in spaces where, for example, carbon dioxide was needed on the planet, and then a volcano erupts. You know, for example, when we had a drought in Malta, we were all very unhappy about it. For 2 years, we had a drought. I lost 12 mature trees. They were like 30 plus years old.
No.
Um, but in the end, they weren't the native trees to Malta, you see. So the
Uh-huh.
nature in Malta at that time
Uh-huh.
was also healing itself and removing any species that were damaging our ecosystem. So the earth is always healing itself, um,
Absolutely.
always healing itself. So from that comes, there's us in this picture, right? Now, there's a common mistake I feel where we feel we're separate to all this, you know? We feel we're separate to this ecosystem, to this biosphere we're living in, you know, the planet. But the same way trees connect in the forest, you know, they're proving now that like the largest banyan tree in a forest sends signals to smaller trees
Mhm.
um, to release certain chemicals into the soil. And, you know, we are not separate from this. It is crazy to think we are.
No.
We're not separate from this. So even if this virus is man-made or it's not, whatever, you know, whatever is happening within this planet, it's all parts of this natural
Right.
process. You know, that's my belief. Of course, some others would see it differently, but this is my firm belief. I really feel and trust in that at this point in my life. Um, you know, so they say it started in Wuhan, for example. I saw another theory where in Wuhan there was the biggest, you know, pollution clouds and stuff and all this. So I do believe that these viruses released into the planet are actually the planet again healing themselves. This might sound really harsh to people that have bad experiences from it, and again, my deepest, you know, condolences go out to them. But I really feel that this is what's happening. You know.
No, I totally agree. And you know, the movement I've started over here, Heal Scotland, we're actually working on a book right now, and the whole thing is that we believe our disconnection from the land and from nature has cost us the ultimate price, which is, you know, the disease pandemic. Take COVID out of it, cancer, diabetes, you know, lung disease, heart disease, it's all there. We need to take notice. So the reconnection to the land and the magic and the food and the medicine that's just actually right in your garden.
Sure.
It's so exciting actually when you start to realize you don't need to be rich, you don't need to be super educated, you don't need to be anything. It's all there for us. It's all been laid out. And it's very empowering, and it equalizes all of us. You know, you don't have to go to some fancy hospital in Mexico. You know, this is if you can maintain your health rather than trying to regain it once it's been lost. So tell me a little bit about lockdown, because your bars and restaurants opened on Friday, was it?
Uh, yeah, the bars and restaurants have been open for a couple of weeks. I
Right.
think they've released some laws and stuff. It's kind of what I've noticed is the expats, the foreigners living in Malta, are all over the beaches and stuff again. I think the Maltese are being a bit more cautious.
Uh-huh.
That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. I notice when I'm on the beach with the kids now, because we're taking the kids to the beach. In Slima, it seems to be the quietest versus like the sandy beaches and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I've noticed there to be foreigners mostly.
Right.
Um, the lockdown in Malta, you know, yeah, it was the same like everywhere else, I guess. I mean, everybody, some didn't believe in it. There were times where I believed in it, times when I didn't. But either way, I felt I owe it to my community to respect it, of course, because I noticed when people were, you know, like not following the lockdown, that some other people were feeling very disrespected, especially doctors and surgeons working at the hospital, which haven't seen their family in 3 months, you know, to respect this lockdown. And then they'd just be driving to work and see like families congregating on the seafront, for example. Or it's just a bit disrespectful to those people that are respecting a certain communal decision, you know.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I felt on the days I didn't believe in the lockdown, I felt I owe it to my community to respect it anyway. You see. With that said, again, we don't know. We know nothing. So I can't say that the lockdown was necessary or wasn't, because we really don't know. You
No.
know.
Hindsight will be a wonderful thing, I think.
Yeah. I think some deeper magic, deeper power within the planet, within life, you know, within
Mhm.
creation, has done this somehow. You know, I really
Yes.
feel that.
Uh-huh.
And it's boiling, you know. It was simmering for years, now it's boiling, you know. There's the racism topics coming up, all sorts. It's going crazy, you know.
Are you having
They're
any
all true.
protests or riots there? Sorry. Are you having any?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, there's been protests yesterday in Valletta.
Right.
I followed them briefly on some live feed, because we have a lot of refugees in Malta. This whole
Yeah.
thing, it's quite a big problem. So they started a protest, and there were protests in favor and against the refugee situation, talking about racism. Again, the world is going through a healing process. This whole, even the fact that the concept of racism still exists
Huh.
is crazy. I mean,
I know.
it's a process, you know.
Absolutely.
Um, the sooner people start to realize that this is not my country, that's not your country, it's even the planet's not ours. We're just children of the universe, you know, children of God, whatever you call it. We're just,
Yes, we're passing through.
yeah. So once the awareness grows and people can see more of this, then they will start to notice how ridiculous we've been for so long, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
I love your optimism. I
Thank you.
totally agree with everything that you're saying. It just really resonates with me, and I'm very intrigued to see how it all unfolds. Because obviously we've been into this way of thinking for a long time, and that's why we get together, and that's why we all hang out in such a, you know, a big group, because we all enjoy the same things, we believe in the same things, we want to bring everybody back together. Now, there's a really strong awareness level, I think, in Malta, which is not something, if you've not been there and lived there, you might not be aware of. Because I know certainly when I moved there, I learned millions from being around you guys, and why not, and you know, the whole the fact, I think, that it is so small, you can, when you vote, you know it matters. Whereas here, things get lost a little bit. You know, when you've got
Mhm.
whatever it is, nearly 60 million people, you just, you know, you can feel a little bit of ineffectual. But obviously in Malta, you know, you really feel it's, you know, we can look after this because it's small enough to do that.
Yeah.
And it's spectacularly beautiful, though I think like a lot of places, construction's kind of polluting your air, really, isn't it?
Yeah. There's been
And
a lot of construction, yeah.
you get stuck in traffic again today, so are people driving around again as normal?
Hmm. The traffic has increased in the last few days, especially.
Uh-huh.
Also, the sun is blazing now, so it's like summer Maltese. You know, you have people which are still resistant,
Uh-huh.
so not wanting to go back to normal life,
Mm-hmm.
and others which really want to jump straight in it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's still a lot of fear, of course, because let's face it, we've all been through a bit of a traumatic experience with the fear. You know, I remember
Absolutely.
days when I was like seeing these videos of kids with pipes stuck in their mouths, and you look at your own kids and you're like, whoa,
I know.
you know, I can't have that happen to my kids. That's crazy, you know.
I know. I know. I know.
Uh,
Yeah, and it was the unknown. I mean, Joe Dispenza talks about it. Get
okay.
very comfortable with the unknown. That's his
Oh yeah,
mantra.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
get very comfortable with the unknown, because we always want to plan, and we want security, and we want to know
Mm,
exactly what's happening. And he's always, you know, he said, when you start doing the work, you know, expect the unexpected. But we're not
yeah,
very good at that, because we kind of plan basically when the child's conceived, what school they're going to go to, you know, what pension, what education. We're planning, and now we can't plan, because we don't know what's
exactly.
going to happen next. And you know, that can be a really healthy and exciting thing, or it can be terrifying and, you know,
Uh,
disconcerting. It's how you choose to perceive
exactly.
it, and it's also how you're feeling, you know. I had a very interesting experience, because I was in my mum's, when my mum passed on the 20th of April. After that, I was in her house alone for a few days. And I was like, oh, I've not felt like that for a long, long time. And I thought, this is how bad people feel. I mean, there was an obvious reason why I was feeling bad, but
Of course, yeah.
then you realise, you know, how lonely people can be, and how negative you can feel, because you suffer from depression and anxiety and panic attacks. So that was, doesn't do me any harm to visit that place, and, you know, be a lot more mindful of how people are feeling,
Hmm.
because that's the big thing. It's the feelings, isn't it? And the
Of course,
emotional
yeah.
reactions. Yeah. So, so tell me a little bit before we finish about your event design, because you use that word. So tell me what you do.
So it's essentially, I have a company, it's called Guru Events, and we do events planning, management, all sorts of events. Um, so everything from team building activities, staff parties, we even do weddings, all sorts of
Ah,
stuff.
brilliant.
Yeah. I say event design, I take a more of event designer position because we're not so much package orientated. So whereas normally events companies have packaged events. So for example, we've got this package, that one, which one do you like? Buy that one.
Uh-huh.
We're generally more of like a event designing company where we see a company or an individual or a family. We normally survey what they're into and what they like and what they're
Uh-huh.
about and design an event for them, you see? So it's a
Cool.
bit more of a tailor-made kind of thing for them. So, yeah.
Ah, that's a brilliant idea. A brilliant
Uh,
idea. And tell us as well about Jenny's scarf. Have you got one there?
I don't actually know.
Because are
No, I don't.
you guys are you meant to wear masks in the shops? What's the
Yeah. So the shopping, you have to wear masks to go shopping for
right?
now anyway. I'm sure maybe
Uh-huh.
within a few weeks they'll stop it. But for now, we have to wear a mask to go into a shop. Um, so Jenny's been making these masks at first just for us, like because instead of
Yes.
using these surgical looking ones,
Uh-huh.
and we decided to develop the idea. She's always made these like snoods and hoods and like festival wear and earrings and all that.
Uh-huh.
We haven't made any money like in what since the whole COVID thing is events, of course, came to a complete standstill. So
Mhm.
we've been struggling financially. It's been a bit tricky, more
Mhm.
than a bit tricky. I've been struggling a lot, trying to figure it out, getting this money from the government, but it's a very small amount to have an entire family to feed. So it's been tough. So I said, yeah, let's do this. We put the page up, put all her like hoods and earrings and masks. The masks are good for the COVID thing, but they're also good for festivals, when the dance floors are really dusty. Uh,
Yes.
you can spray some like rose water on them and stay with them on the dance floor. And it
Yes.
like filters all the dust and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, they're actually flying. We put the page up and everyone's like calling, booking these masks in.
That's
Uh,
great.
yeah,
Well, we
it's
all
really
have
good.
to think laterally, don't we? Like, how are we
Uh,
going to survive? And I mean, that's going to be the kind of next thing. Certainly here, I think most businesses they did deal with the money side. Not for everybody. There's always loopholes. Some people fell through the cracks, but in general, the masses were calmed because if they hadn't done that, of course, there would have been anarchy.
of
When
course.
people get scared and can't afford food, I mean, food banks are massive here. I mean, we're just living in a time that I never ever thought I would ever see. I
I know
knew
it's
that,
crazy.
that we couldn't carry on the way we were carrying on because I knew, it can't sustain life, and we have, people are getting sick all over the place. So, but I just didn't expect it to happen like this. So I think it's really good to see all these little ideas. People have now had the time and the space to even create a page because I'm sure you probably would have been too busy to do that before.
Yeah,
So you can find a way.
for sure. Like it's been. I think it's wise at this point for people that are on lockdown and all this, and of course, money might be a problem, or probably is. To consolidate your skills, and if you're with a partner or alone, just make a list of those things that you can offer because it depends what you do, of course. But for me, in events, again, it just all disappeared. My work, all weddings cancelled, team building activities, all this stuff out of the window. And it's not the kind of line of work where, as soon as the COVID's over, then I can start taking work. It's always, I'll probably take bookings for next year now.
I
So
know, I know.
it's a bit tricky. So I've had to say, okay, what can I do? I can do graphic design. I do events consultancy. Um, I've made a list of stuff anyway. So I'm going to be sharing that on Facebook, um, and just seeing what mini services I can offer people to start generating a bit of an income for my
Absolutely.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I always tell my pals the biggest problem you have in Malta is deciding what event to go to because there's so much on. So can you just see the summer with all these? Do you think that's just not going to happen this year?
Well, the bars are already like the beach bars are heaving with people, give or take. I mean, not as much as usual, but there's people, regardless of whether they're meant to be 75 or I don't know what the rule is. I think it's six per table, but they're already busy. So I'm more than sure 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, Malta will have a reasonable amount of people in most locations, especially on the beaches and beach bars. So events will start coming together, but again, stuff like weddings and all that, they take time to plan, so that won't happen.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, these large parties where they have big DJs booked from overseas, those have all been cancelled. I doubt those will revive so quickly either. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
more a case of just gatherings which start to take place spontaneously on beaches, people's houses. This sort of thing will start happening very soon. You know.
Yeah. Well, I really, really appreciate you taking the time. It's always a total joy to speak to you. And I really, really hope to see you in July.
I hope so too. Thanks for having
If
me.
they let me in. Because apparently the Brits, the Spanish and the Italians are the ones that they don't want, which I can totally understand. But anyway, as we know, when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
So
For
thank
sure.
you so much for your time, and I will chat to you soon.
Thank you so much, Lilia. Thanks for having me.
No problem.